the necessary. If you worshipping is realizing your dependent nature, respective to the independent nature of the independent one.
Right, I understand.
Once you realize that, the question is now, how does this independent one want you to realize that dependence?
It's so interesting, because why would it need dependence?
Who said anything?
Why would it want it?
No, hold on.
It's a strange thing.
That's a contradictory question.
Is it?
If it's an independent, it doesn't need anything because.
But why is it asking for it?
Well, no, hold on. It's not asking for dependence.
It is.
No.
Worship me or you go to hell.
No. Now you've gone into religious discourse.
I thought this was a religious discourse.
No. It really wasn't. This was a
You're
rational.
Muslim, right?
I'm a Muslim.
So this is completely separate from you being Muslim.
I'm building you up. You're gonna, William.
It's not my first time, man.
I know it's not your first time. But what? Do you understand what I'm saying right now? Does this make sense so far to you? Yeah.
Well, I know. I've heard these things a number of times. I'm taking you seriously. It's just I want to go further.
Yeah. All right. So what I wanted to say to you is this. What I wanted to say to you is, simply spoken, us realizing our dependence does not entail a need from the independent from us to realize our dependence. There's no logical necessity there. That's answering your question directly, right? Just because if we realize our dependence, it doesn't mean that God needs us to realize our dependence, or the independent needs us to realize our independence. It doesn't follow like that. It just means that in order for you to self-actualize in the most
That's interesting.
Yes.
Because self-actualization, from my understanding, is the realization that you actually have full control over yourself.
Yes,
and are not dependent.
No, that's a Maslowian understanding of it, psychological.
Maybe it works for me though.
Nothing. It doesn't matter if something works for you. If it's not in line with the truth, we chuck it away. Self-actualization.
I think that's.
Let me tell you something. Tell me if you disagree with me. Self-actualization is realizing who you are, why you are, and what you are.
And the development of yourself.
Do you agree?
Exploration.
Perfect, no problem. Who, why, and what. If self-actualization are those things, the first thing you should know about yourself is that you're a dependent being. And you agree that we're dependent, potential realities, possible existences, not something which is...
I didn't agree.
Yeah, you did.
Well...
And that is a reality.
It doesn't really...
If I take you out of existence, or if you take me out of existence, or I take you out of existence, it's not going to stop existence from existing. It doesn't lead to an impossibility.
Well, I already gave you the theory that we might be the concept of God experiencing itself.
Look, what might be the case isn't as strong as what certainly isn't the case, and that...
I don't think we can be certain.
We have been certain.
So you say?
We have been certain. The thing is, William, I really think that when we look at these things discursively as we have, right? Rationally as we have.
Well, I know that there's much more intelligent people than me, factually, that completely disagree with you.
Let me tell you something.
So
it's like you said, God shouldn't want for anything.
I hadn't said that he did want it. What did I say?
He said want to worship.
No. Want can be used in two different ways. Want as in, if I don't get it, then I will not exist, which we've already discussed is impossible. But want as in, this is something that is part of my will.
So no, will is limit.
No, that's not. There's no logical necessity for that. Because having a will doesn't mean having a limit to the will.
When you have something, that means something is with you. Okay, you have something. There's me and that which I have.
Say that again.
If you have something, that means there is you and that which I have. Like I have gloves.
Okay.
There is the I and that which has gloves.
Right.
So if something has will, what is that?
No. You're grammatically confused because there's two things. There's something which is... What's your name, sorry, my friend? Tiger, I like the name. It's very good. I'll tell you why. In English language, if I say it's tigers, and I put apostrophe between the R and the S, it means it belongs to you. You own it. It's your possession. But if I ascribe an attribute to you, which is part of your nature, you don't have to possess it.
But even an attribute is still something. That which, as I told you, I was agreeing with you.
Right.
That which you will call God or Allah, okay, has to be distinct from that which you call reality.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Right.
But as soon as you say it has attributes, that limits it, I would say.
Well, what is an
To
attribute?
have anything. Anything.
No,
Even
an attribute
speaking,
is just an adjective.
even speaking, even authoring a book.
An attribute is an adjective.
But do you hear what I said?
Yeah, I heard what you said. But I'm saying, what my question is, what logical principle are you using to determine that using adjectives to describe, for instance, in our case, the necessary existence or the independent, limits it?
I just said in plain English, so I don't mean to be rude.
Yeah.
I'm saying in plain English. I don't know big words like it. That's
Yeah.
what I mean by that.
Yeah.
If something has anything, it's limited. Anything.
And who gave you that principle?
I'm suggesting.
Okay, and on what
For
basis?
example,
Yeah.
we would say there's space here.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
What limits it?
What limits space?
Yes.
What the existence of other things that are occupying the space?
What limits space?
Well, space itself is, by the way, space and distance is something in physics which is debated. Leibniz and Newton had the whole discussion. What is space? I'm not going to go into it. What I am going to say to you is this: if
So just
Yes.
just throw it away.
Yeah, if you're
throw
saying-
it away, 'cause I don't understand it.
no, look, I mean,
No,
right?
but what's,
What?
no, it's
Go
not
ahead.
about right or wrong. Just I'm
Yeah,
asking
yeah.
you, what limits space? Can anything limit space? Put it that way. Can anything limit
Something which
space?
occupies it. Is that what the answer is?
How? How would it limit it?
Because it would occupy it. Depends on what your vision of space is. Because as I say, if you have a Newtonian understanding of it, it's different to have if you have a Leibnizian understanding.
Space as in.
What is space to you?
Yeah, no, it's fair.
Yeah,
Space
yeah,
as
yeah.
in that which all things are within.
Right. So Newton had a different understanding to
I'm
Leibniz.
not Newton, just talk to you.
No, but I'm telling you right now. I mean, it's an interesting. It's a positive interrogation. But if you're using a word, it's only fair for us to look back at what scientists and philosophers have used to determine what that word means. Is it not?
Well, it matters more. I think it means what you think it means.
No, me and you are not specialists in physics,
It's
right?
not about special. No, it's
So
space.
I'm just
you're
telling
trying
you.
to
And this is where you limit
No,
yourself again,
it's
brother.
very important. Space.
This is where you limit yourself
I'm not
again.
limiting
You are
myself.
limiting yourself.
I'm just going to scholarly
You're
material.
saying- yeah, but
What I'm saying
you
is,
can just
yeah,
have an
yeah.
opinion, right?
Well, okay, I'm telling you, I'll go with William's opinion on this one because I'll say to you, look, space itself there's no agreed upon definition of it in physics. In Einstein,
still works, though.
Einstein and
Never done
Leibniz,
it, still works.
look, Einstein and Leibniz had an understanding that space is relative. So, for instance, point A and point B, the thing between it is limited. Whereas Newton had an understanding of physical space as being like a physical reality. Look, I don't want to go into details about this, but what I'm saying is the reason why I tried to avoid cosmological extrapolation from the very beginning is because I thought an ontological reasoning would keep us away from those inductive limitations, right? And I talked to him about this already. I said to him, look, the reason why I'm not using a discursive cosmological argumentation is because of those inductive problems.
When you say cosmological,
Yes.
what are you talking about? Like outside?
I'm talking
Earth?
about that which when we say cosmological, we're talking about the cosmos. So we're talking about
Okay.
the universe.
I'm
and
just talking about just space.
Yeah. Well,
For
that's part of the
example-
cosmos.
For
Yeah.
example, would
That's
you
part of the
agree?
cosmos.
Okay, would you agree
Yeah.
that everything is in something that we call space?
I don't know because that's where the discussion is. Discussion.
If you don't know, okay.
Everything is in something.
Yes.
No, I don't agree with that premise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Because
How
if
could
you're
it be otherwise, though? Out of
Pardon?
interest. How could it be otherwise that something can exist but not be within space?
numbers,
But numbers are within thought. They're a concept of thought.
is that space?
No,
that's
but it's
the thing I
within
was
something
saying.
thought.
No, hold on. Yeah, hold on, Tiger. You said everything is in something.
Yes.
Numbers are they something?
They're a concept of thought. Concept is
No
something.
problem. Is it in space?
It doesn't say space. That says something.
No, hold
It
on.
says space.
Tiger,
No, it's not
Tiger,
space.
please,
No.
please.
I said
It's not, is it? Oh, so then your first premise has been disproved.
No, I didn't say everything is in space. I'm saying everything's in something.
Yeah,
I
everything's in
literally just
something.
said
Where is the number? Where is
that. I
it?
said thought. In that, imagine if I say 5.
Yeah,
where's
but
5? You tell me.
Are you talking about from a geological perspective?
You tell me. Where is the number 5 that you're seeing right now in your mind?
It's an abstraction.
Where is it though? Does
It's
it
not.
exist?
No, it doesn't exist in a cosmological sense.
Okay, but does it exist? Are you?
It exists
perceiving the number
100%.
5? Okay.
Yes,
then.
but not in a cosmological sense.
That's fine. But
Yeah.
it exists within
So-
thought.
Okay, but you said within. See, it's
Or as
equivocation.
thought, or even as
No,
thought.
a Tiger. This is the fallacy of equivocation. Do you know that? Because what you've done. Let me explain. Using the word "in" can be done so. It can be done so geologically, if you like. Say this is in this. The bunny is in the hat. So I'm talking about position. Positioning, positionality. If I say that the bunny is inside the hat, that's me using it inside. If I say, well, it's within reason to do this, this and that, it's the same kind of word, but it's used in two different contexts, so it's called the fallacy of equivocation. So it's
cool.
it's a false kind of proposition.
Could be cool.
So anyways, what's the point you're trying to make, Tiger? Yeah.
Anyway, that's a bit dismissive.
I apologize. Go
But
ahead.
like I said to you, I was agreeing with you, remember?
Yeah, good.
But I'm suggesting to you
Yeah.
that which you call God is not the right understanding of it.
Okay, well, no
Like
problem.
I said, for you to give anything to that which is definitely, I agree, distinct from this, of course.
Say that again, sorry?
That which is definitely distinct from hands, this moment, let's say. Yeah? This moment is dependent on it, I agree.
Yeah, all right, good.
But to
Excellent.
give it something, straight away puts it into experience.
Say that again, sorry?
To give it something, an attribute, it can speak. I mean, that straight away. Even
See,
actions.
once again, that's-
Sorry, can I finish?
Of course. Sorry.
Even actions to say God did this, God done that. For it to have to do limits it. We do. I'll suggest to you that which we call God is just that which cannot understand. That's another Quran says in the Bible says. I don't know if Quran says, but the Quran says. Yeah, we cannot understand it with mind, of course, because it's that which is mind is dependent on. So I can mind know that which it is dependent on. Yeah, okay. But then, if it has to do anything, create any action, that limits it.
I agree with you. If you say it has to do something, which means it's...
no, but does.
No, that's too... Well...
I know, yeah, but don't pull on the words too much, yeah? I'm saying it, you would suggest that God does do things, right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying that limits it, that
Why?
understanding. Really?
Yeah, because if I were to ask you, actually the opposite is true, because if I say that...
To do...
No. If you're saying God
no,
doesn't...
Actually, brother, just to clarify, yeah, while we're here,
Yeah.
you know the word do, yeah? When we Muslims refer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, if we refer to His hand, we're not referring to the hand that you know. And in the same way, and in the same sense, when we say that Allah did something or He has to do something as we be, it's not in this way that we understand as humans.
So what is the way?
That is something that there's something that's called the unseen aqi within us, yeah.
Oh, no, but
within
this-
Islam,
sorry.
yeah. Sorry. Thank you. I respect that. So, for example, when you were to create something, you would mold something, correct? Maybe you would carve something away. Allah doesn't work in that way. If you would ask me, how does Allah work? That's where we would state to you, we do not know how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works. He creates something and something that's different to what we understand. Inshallah, that clarifies. I'm going to go and pray.
I understand what you're saying.
All right.
I
Can
understand
I
what
pray?
you're
Can I
saying.
pray?
Sorry,
Can I pray with him and come back?
So you just said something. Can I reply to the brother?
Yeah.
You come here, brother. Fair. Sorry,
So you said it, bye.
No, I'm going to go pray, bro. That's right.
No,
It's prayer
can we
time.
pray
I
and
told
come
him
back?
like 10
Can we
minutes
pray and
ago,
come
but
back?
yeah, go on.
Okay.
Can we pray and come
but
back?
then
Can we
once.
pray and come back?
Okay. Actually, I have to go.
Let him
back
make
to
his
my-
statement.
Okay.
Let the brother
Okay.
make his statement. Yeah, go on.
I agree with that though.
Yeah.
And I think what we miss as so-called humans
Yeah.
is we can't understand that which you call God with mind.
You
with
can't know
thoughts.
it.
Of
Not
course
all of it, no.
So of course, for after understand, we have to
Yeah,
pull
so-
it in
so-
stories. We have to pull it in words. How
Yeah.
else could we have the attempt to think
Fair.
deeply?
Yeah,
okay. So when God is saying do, yeah, I agree. I don't think it actually means do, but many people, not all Muslims, because you have different beliefs. Not all Christians think literally do in some way.
Yeah.
In some way.
Yeah, in some
I'm saying
way.
if it's in any way, that's not the understanding of God that I believe is correct.
What is the correct?
That's fair. That's subject. That's your from your
Literally-
perspective.
Yeah, of course. Exactly.
Yeah, as Muslims, we had the unseen, so
not-
that's the difference.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I'm agreeing
yeah.
it is unseen.
Sure.
I'm literally agreeing.
What's your background, by the way? Have you got a certain background? Or?
Doesn't matter.
He's a
There's
respectful
only
man.
now.
Take care, brother. That's
There's
just
only
yeah?
now that which we call now. Yeah.
Thank you, man. Listen, one thing I would like to say to you is that two things you did say which are flatly false from a logical perspective is that if you are
Maybe I wasn't using logic.
well, if maybe
Maybe
you're
I
not
was using
logical,
reason.
what's the difference between logic and reason?
I'm just saying.
How do you define reason?
Huh? Reason things to make things to try and understand something.
And how do you do that?
Well, I would use it, see if something makes sense to me.
How?
If it makes sense to me.
Yeah, how would it make sense to you?
Okay, it doesn't make sense to me that there could be a square circle because it's shaped from the
So that's
flip.
logic.
Okay.
Look,
I told you I'm not big with the words, but you don't have to try and win this from intellectual standpoint. Yeah? We can just speak normally. You know what I mean if I say reason, yeah?
no, but you
sure.
said it's not logic, but then we discussed that.
Yeah, but don't pull up on the words too much. I'm suggesting to you that God, there is that we should call God. Yeah? Not as a being, though. I'm suggesting
What's a being?
something.
So it's not. It doesn't exist.
not as a thing. No, exactly.
What's your understanding of
You
existence?
existence. If you really want my real answer, you really want to go there.
I don't want to go.
I do.
I don't want your false one.
You want to go there, yeah?
I want to know.
There is only existence.
Okay, I agree with you on that point.
There is only existence.
And we had that discussion before. Look, I'll tell you
Also,
something.
just to save
what I
time,
was
just to
saying.
save time, just to help.
Yeah.
So
He doesn't need help. He's very strong
no,
man.
help. That's the wrong word.
Yeah,
Can you
yeah.
pick up on every little word, man? You're too shrewd like
I'm
that.
not sure. You're
Every little
thinking
word.
in an interesting
Yeah.
way. Tell me.
You said something about time. Do you believe in time, right? I suggest to you, time only exists in thought.
What's thought?
Wow. You know what a thought is, brother?
Whose thought?
That's a great question.
Okay, good question. Yes.
It
Who
could
is
be-
the I?
could be something
What is
deeper.
the I that you refer to when you say
How
I?
can you prove I exist?
I'm asking you that. I'm not proving.
No, no, I
I don't
think-
suggest I exist.
Let me tell you something.
No, hold on.
All right,
I'm
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
just ask me a question. I'm saying
Yeah.
I don't. Okay, I'm not saying I exist.
Let me tell you
You've
something.
been saying
Let me-
I this whole time. So I ask
I
you.
haven't been saying I.
Of course you have. You just said it now.
No, Tiger,
you
please.
just said I haven't been saying I.
No, hold
You
on.
just said I haven't been
No,
saying I.
can I explain?
So
Can I explain? Can
I'm
I
asking
explain?
you what is I. That's my last
Tiger,
sentence.
yeah. In the beginning, the argument I put forward had no pronouns. I said existence.
Oh, word.
Please, Tiger, please. I don't know why you're. Is this? Are we talking to each other in a respectful way, or?
Oh yeah, definitely. But I told you that the whole grammar thing isn't that big a deal because the word itself isn't what it actually is referring to. The word ball is not a ball. Like you put too much on words. The words elephant. If I write elephant on my hand, is this now an elephant? Like we put way too much
Okay,
emphasis
fine.
on words.
I'll try and.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get you.
The
I'll
words
try.
themselves are not truth. They
Yeah,
refer
yeah.
to that which is.
Okay, no, I agree with that
Or
point.
they attempt to.
Yeah,
I should
right,
say.
no
attempt
problem.
to. Okay.
So, the
So
argument.
Sorry. That was my bad. My bad.
No problem. No, you want to say something? I haven't got a problem.
No, that's my bad.
I was saying that the argument I put forward was intentionally sidestepping of personal pronouns, and the reason why is because when René Descartes, who I think was an 17th century philosopher, he had something called a cogito, which is I think, therefore I am. I'm sure you heard of it, yeah? Cogito ergo sum. Nietzsche come some time ago, recently in the 20th century, 19th, 20th century, and he said that how can you presuppose the I? So when I started up my initial proposition, I didn't say I exist. I said to William, I said to him that there's certainly there's no doubt that there's existence. So right?
Yeah, we done the existence part.
agree.
Right. So no problem. So having said that, this whole discussion, I think if you were following it and you agree with it, I'll say the one last thing,
No,
right?
some things.
Yeah, you agree with
That's why I
something.
think
Right.
I don't agree with everything.
Yeah, some certain things. I'll tell you one last thing before I have to go and pray, right?
No problem.
Which is, I agree with the point, and I'll say to you candidly, right? You cannot justify all of what we as Muslims say are God's attributes, so-called God's attributes, adjectives describing this independent being. We cannot justify them all rationally. It's impossible. So we believe that God is merciful and loving and all of those things, yeah? Mercy and love are not necessary. I would argue they're not necessarily logically part of an entity that's independent.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All of those attributes, so we say there's more than 99 names, there's 99 names and attributes. Man ahsaha, the hadith says, whoever memorizes it, understands it, whatever. But it's more than 99 attributes. I can't here and stand in front of you and say, look, all of those 99 attributes, all of them using discursive, systematic theology, I'm going to, prove each one like that. No, it could not be the case, right?
No.
Indeed.
And it would not be the case, and it is not the case. So I say to you that there may be about 5 or 6 attributes which can be discursively found out. 7 or 8, 9 or 10 could be, right? Maybe 20, right?
Like what? Just for example.
For instance, the fact that he is that the thing is independent,
Okay.
that there's nothing before it.
Oh,
He meant more once.
Yeah, there's nothing before it. That it's unique, and so on. These things that we talked about, right? The things that which necessarily, from a logical perspective, follow. But other things like him being merciful and being, having this attribute and that attribute, we can't go into great detail. Where we get that from revelation. We get that from Quran and Sunnah. For us to believe in that, we have to believe in the Messenger. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So we say that.
Which one?
Prophet Muhammad, all of them, in fact. Moses and Jesus and Muhammad and all of the messengers. We say that God gave us the ability to immediately know Him. We have immediate knowledge of God. It's intuitionism.
I agree.
Right? And in addition to that, rationally know Him.
I don't think you need revelation to know God, though.
Absolutely. And I agree with that point. You do not need revelation to know God. That's part of our discourse as well.
Okay.
The Quran is referred to as a dhikr, which literally means a reminder, which means that immediately we know who God is. But then we're reminded of Him through revelation, where all of the, not all of them, but some substantial details relating to this deity is handed over to us from the messenger who we believe is being inspired by this independent, all-knowing
Do
source.
you believe God is a deity? You
Yes.
just said yes. So, what's a deity to you, just so I know?
So the difference between, so deity, something worthy of worship, something which is
But
worship.
a thing.
Yes, a thing, yes.
Indeed.
Thing, yes, a
This is
thing.
why I say I don't believe that's a correct understanding.
Yeah, well,
but as
that's,
soon as you say it's a thing, that's a limit.
no, a thing is
Yes. I would say yes.
well, it's all about language, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
But-
Exactly. That's
Well, you
why
said if just because you say
silence-
something, it's not.
silence. Obviously, we have to talk. Yeah, switch it speakers corner, right? But I suggest that.
So what is it?
Like I said before,
What do you want to call
there
it?
isn't any word that actually means what the word says anyway. Okay.
So what you're saying is
That
quite
would-
profound,
that
actually.
would-
'Cause what you're
that-
saying is that it doesn't. Sorry, just to
Yeah, all right,
you
all
tell me.
right. I cut
I'm
you
saying it wrong.
sometimes, it's all right.
Yes,
Yes,
I do apologize.
That's all right.
You're saying that whatever word we use,
It's not going to be adequate.
it's not going to be adequate enough to identify the full essence of that of the entity which we're talking
No,
about.
could we just collectively agree that the
Yeah,
word
yeah.
apple means
No,
that
I
green thing?
totally agree with that point. I totally agree with that
Yes.
point. These are pointers. Words are
Thus,
pointers.
but wait.
Yeah.
Thus, I suggest again that
yeah.
truth is not in the word.
Yes, I
in
agree.
Word at all.
100%.
We say a lot of things.
Words
but
are pointers, right?
They attempt to point.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. So.
So we agree then.
Oh yeah, we're good now. Yeah.
So what I want you guys to do, please, I mean, take it from me. If you don't want to do it,
Okay, you can do that, but I got to do one to you then after.
Right, no problem. If you, no problem. You might have done it already, right? I want you to read from chapter 50 of the Quran up until chapter 114. Now you might think that's a lot of chapters, but they're all very small. And what I want you to do is just envisage, and if you can actually listen to it in Arabic as well, whilst looking at it in the subtitles in English, it'll be even better. Just look at that message, basically, which we believe is a message from that independent entity, and ask yourself, could this be, in fact, the guidance, the
I've read
purpose?
some of it.
Well, I've already said no, haven't I?
Oh, you want to do it?
No.
Right,
I've got a Quran. I've read it sometimes.
Yeah,
There's lots of spiritual wisdoms in it.
Yeah.
But as I just said, the understanding that many have, not all Muslims, I speak to Muslims, even this book that see.
No, I think you come
As I
up with
say,
some very
truth.
wise statements, by the way. It takes me
appreciate-
some time to understand what you're trying to say, but then, when I
we
get
have
it,
actually spoken before.
I think so, yeah. When I get it, and I agreed with you on that last point, by the way. Yeah.
Wicked.
Yeah.
But just to say.
By the way, can this be the last thing I need to pray
Yeah,
and I come
this
back?
is yeah. I'll say to you, until you know what that which you call I is actually referring to, I am. We all say I, God says I, everyone says I. So what is I? When you know what I is referring to, then you can say I know who I am. Because I believe your name is it
Muhammad?
Muhammad?
Yes.
Okay. That's not who you truly are. You can change your name right now and be Terry. Right? So that which you essentially
Terry or
are.
terrorist? I don't know.
So you said that.
I know that you're
said
terror. Let me change that quickly.
I know. Yeah, I'm sure you're joking. But
No, I'm
anyway,
only joking.
Yeah. Right. So
Yeah,
essentially, my thing is essentially you can't be a name.
Yeah.
And I know
It's
as a
pointer,
Muslim,
right?
you know essentially you're not the body.
Yeah. So it's a
right?
pointer. Words are
So-
pointers. Right.
So until we know what we essentially are, I don't think we should even say I know the truth.
That's
If
what
you
I
don't,
was saying
if you-
from the
I know
start,
you
man.
have been. That's why I was just waiting.
Thanks, man.
From you. But I definitely, I'm not trying to speak like I'm hiding you. No one's hiding anyone. But I believe if you read the Quran in the slightly different eyes, you see what that which you call Allah is really trying to tell you.
Well, you know what?
But
On
that's
that,
just
on that
yeah,
note,
yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. The more we read the Quran, the more we discover about ourselves,
Yeah.
about the
I
universe.
can read
But
it with you, I don't
it's
mind.
been a pleasure talking to you, William, as well.
Are you coming back?
Yeah, I'll be back. I was
Actually,
just going
I
to
do
pray.
have to go myself.
All right.
It's like 6
If you want to talk to me afterwards, I don't mind. All right, let me just go and pray.